How's everybody doing today? Good. Welcome to today's launch. My name is Rachel Nelson. I'm the CEO and principal designer at Concetti.
My name's Taylor. I'm a lead designer and brand ambassador at Concetti.
And I have to say a special shout out to Michigan Design Center for hosting today. The staff is absolutely incredible. So thank you, thank you. Let's give them a little round of applause. Thank you guys for joining. Today we are going to be talking about be brave enough to be boldly you and what that means and how it translates to the built environment and interior design. We have a three-phased approach to design here at Concetti that we're going to shed a little bit of insight and light into so we can talk about how our process really empowers people to be the biggest, boldest version of themselves. Instead of just embracing white walls, maybe perhaps that purple or blue that you've loved forever. Through this process, you can have the courage to incorporate some of those elements that you normally wouldn't. I have to say that this process is how my brain works. So being the founder of Concetti, it was all about understanding how to tackle the strategy piece of design, as well as taking care of clients and the aesthetics and then the execution. So this process is how my brain works, and we will show you an example of that process. And I just want to state we're looking for conversation. So this is going to be very conversational. If at any point in time you guys have a question, please raise your hand. We don't have to wait till the end, okay? All right, so who is Concetti? We are Concetti. No, we are a team of 8. We have 5 designers, and we have a procurement specialist and a marketing and relationship director, who is Miss Madeline Phillip Jump, who welcomed you today, as well as a strategic business manager. So we are located in the Island View neighborhood in Detroit. We are all about doing residential and commercial spaces, and we really view the partnership with our clients as a partnership. And so we call ourselves interior design strategists, which Taylor will talk about in just a minute, but I'll go a little further back. We started in 2014. I'm a 3rd generation Detroit business owner. So there's no other city that I wanted to be a part of. And I had always loved creative things, but fell in love with interior design in high school. Hey, I see you guys. I also had interior design courses. I went to Plymouth Canton High School, and this was back in the early 2000s, which is pretty like, with a big campus like that, they had some unique courses, and I continued to go into my senior year by doing an independent study in interior design and started to just say, well, this is my path. I love this. I love the creative part. I love the execution part. And so it was just something that as I went to school at Kendall College of Art and Design and studied abroad. That was a promise I made to myself, as well as saying I will be an interior designer. And when I wasn't finding something that really resonated with me in the workforce, I created my own company. So with that, Taylor is amazing, by the way.
Thank you. So in Concetti, we call ourselves interior design strategists. What this means is we were all formally trained in interior design, but we're strategists at heart. So that means we're both using the left side and right side of our brain. So we can come up with really creative concepts, but then think really logically on how we can execute those concepts. So we're being strategic, not just in the concepts, which we're talking about today, and really in phase 1 of our 3-phase process, but we're also really strategic when it comes to the completion and the execution of the process. And we know it's important to be with our client from that initial idea to the moment that they're moving into their final space. So that's a little bit about interior design strategy. Another huge part of it is our human-centric approach to design, which we're going to take you through a little bit later on as well. Also shout out to Lake Orion. She was talking about her high school. I went to Clarkston, so it's good to see you guys here.
I hear you're rivals.
Yeah,
Is this
are we
true?
still rivals? I think we're still rivals. I hope so. Is our football team still good?
I have to say, I mean, Lake Orion offers interior design classes.
Which we didn't. So
Clarkston?
yeah, no.
Okay. Lake Orion, right? Okay.
All right, I'll take that one loss. I guess. All right, so this is a little snippet of our portfolio. Something that we're really proud of is how different all of our projects are. And that's because our projects are a unique reflection of our client. We're really proud to not have a signature style. That can work really well. Like Joanna Gaines has made an amazing career out of it. What we find is that instead, if we get to really know our client, we can encourage them to be the boldest version of themselves and create spaces that feel like a true reflection of them. We're all so different, so all of our spaces should be as well.
Agreed. We do commercial as well. We really find ourselves working with small businesses. A lot are in Detroit. Some of them are in Metro Detroit, but they as well are completely different because we are looking at completely different brands. But we really view ourselves as the bridge between brand and the built environment when working with commercial clients. And being that kind of like merging our interior design offering with our commercial clients is like our love for entrepreneurship and our love for design have merged into this commercial offering where we really get to know the brand, the business operations, who are the people. And when we say, who are your people to our clients, it's, you know, who are your employees? We got to take care of them. Happy employees, efficient employees stay and have higher ROIs, as well as then what is the customer experience? What does that look like? How do we make the built environment so uniquely your brand that it's memorable? And so taking that approach is in all commercial spaces we do, but it really is the same with that residential side. Who are you? How does your personality translate into the built environment? What do holidays look like for you? What does a weekend look like for you? And really giving people, whether it is residential or commercial, the confidence to just create a home or a business space that is uniquely you and serves you. Like if you don't use your dining room, then maybe you shouldn't have a dining room anymore. What? I know, crazy. But people are like, this is like, I never use this space. I use it twice a year. You don't have to keep it. If you want to keep it because it's beautiful, right? Like a dining room is a beautiful feature. So point being, I'm going down a tangent, but point being is always think of what serves you. And that's a lot around what we do in our human-centric approach, which is coming right up. So human-centric approach, simply put, is putting people first. And I've already spoken to that a couple of times. We're going to focus in on more residential spaces right now. But it really comes down to what do you need in your home? Not what you think you should have, what you've been told you need. What do you need? Do you need a meditation room? We don't need that third guest bedroom. Maybe that's a new meditation nook. What do you need to serve you? So it always starts with people first. And a human-centric approach to design is how we're able to create those unique spaces, because it starts with who are the people, how are they using it? So function. And then it goes into, but what makes you feel good? What aesthetic do you like? I don't care if shiplap is trending. If it doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to put it in your home. If there's a color of the year, if it inspires you, let's do it. If it doesn't inspire you, you are not tied to following trends. Follow things that feel good to you, okay? So next up is think about, as people, we navigate the world through our bodies. We also spend a majority, especially in Michigan in the cold, cold winters, a lot of time indoors. And as an interior designer, think about the power you have in the spaces that we're creating. We're going to dictate how people interact, how people feel, It can affect your mental health. That's a really cool, empowering thing to think about. And it really comes down to we're animals, we're humans. We navigate space through our five senses. So that's why we have our five senses listed here: sight, smell, hearing, taste, touch. And so if we can start to think about the fact that it is way more than four walls and furniture, and it is all about creating an experience, and then saying, well, what is the desired experience we're aiming to create? That's really where the magic lies. If we start to jump into, here's a room, it should have tables and chairs, it's why should it? Let's start with, who are the people using it? What do the people want to use it as? And then what selections do we make that support that function? And then how do we make it an experience? How do we think about what we're looking at, what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're smelling, all the things, okay? Taste is always a tough one.
Yeah, especially when you're designing a bathroom, you're like, I hope you taste nothing, but other spaces, it's really powerful. So
agreed. And honestly, we get into that with our clients. It's always a little giggle. But it really comes down to, for us, when we're onboarding clients, it's like, well, hey, what is your favorite? What's your favorite treat? Just so I get to know you a little bit better. And as the professionals, we really need to be leading the process. But for us, we always start, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, by getting to slow down and say, the first thing I want to do when starting with any sort of client is just hear what you have to say. Who are you? What do you like? What's your favorite music? What's your favorite thing to eat? What do you want to see? And then we start to get to know who they are. And then we get into talking about the built environment. But the more you understand who you're designing for, the less guesswork there is, and the more advocacy that comes into play. I don't have to guess anymore. I think this room should have, it's not pop quiz. It's who is this person? And then how can I create a design that is going to be of service to them? And I think that's the biggest thing to make sure we don't lose sight of.
it can be really enlightening for our clients as well, because I think that when you go to a client, you're like, what do you want? They're like, I don't know. That's why you guys are here. Yeah. Tell me, what do I need? What do I want? I don't know what's trending. And it's like, okay, I think taking that moment to pause and be like, well, what do you want when you think not just of this specific space? What do you want in your life that your home isn't your home for this all in purpose? What is your home not giving you that you want in your life? And you can really start to boil down who that person is, what the essence of that person is, which eventually leads us into a process that gets you to be the largest version of yourself. So if you guys are open to it, let's do a little exercise together, see where you guys kind of land. If you want to close your eyes, Rachel's a close your eyes girl. I'm like a not, I'll always be like, but so when you are separating yourself into like your happy space, it doesn't have to be your happy home. It can be a happy vacation you're on, wherever it is. What do you see when you're at your happiest, most peaceful self? It could be a beach. It could be a place up north that you go with your family. Maybe you're happiest at Somerset in the Louis Vuitton store. I don't even know.
No judgment.
All right. What is the smell? Like, what are you smelling when you're there? Is it the smell of fall? Do you like a warm ambery smell, or is it like a bright, citrus is a good one. Do you just like the smell of like a garden? Rachel's favorite is hearing. I'll let you take this one.
What do you hear? Is there a song that when you listen to it, it just resonates with you? It's a vibe. It makes you feel good. It makes you happy. What is it when you're in this space? Is it complementing the rest of everything that's going on, right? Is it something that is uplifting? Is it something that is soothing? From there, taste. Are you sipping on some coffee? Are you eating some cheesecake? Because I am. No. Chocolate. What is it that is going to set your senses on fire? And then what are you feeling? What type of textures are there? Is it fuzzy? Is it warm? Is it silky? Is it velvety? Are we feeling leather? What is that piece? When you go to sit down, what do you want to sit down in? Do you fall into it? Is there structure? Now open your eyes. This is the first part of our phased approach. Phase 1, the vision. The first step, so we have 3 phases and every phase has 2 steps. The first step is discover, and that's where we do that data dump. I want the client to tell what is going on. Talk to me, talk to me. We're having these conversations and we're getting to understand what their vision is. Today, we're going to walk through an example of my house, actually, because I use the same exact process when designing anything for my own home. And this is what I felt.
Just vibe. One vibe. Just
Good here.
vibe.
I know my high schoolers like this song, right? Come
They're
on.
like, maybe a couple of years ago.
They're like, I think I was just born. I still think I'm cool. But I'm old.
Just
So
vibe.
we have what we call a visual guideline, but really it's more of like an experiential guideline.
Yeah.
It allows us to collect the thoughts, the ideas, the color schemes, all the vibes, all in one place. I think what's really strong about this guideline is it's helping bridge the gap between conversation and actual imagery. I always use the same example. You could tell me that you like love the color blue, and in that experience we just went through, you're like, I don't know, I just like feel really, or like, let's use purple. I don't know. You're like, I'm seeing like beautiful, like moods of purple, like there's like purpley vibe. I could be thinking of like a really deep purple, like something jewel toned, and you might be thinking of lavender. Well, let's put some imagery to it and make sure that we're all on the same page. But also, what triggering words could we put into this visual guideline, this experiential guideline that makes you feel like the happy place you just went to personified into a little collage or mood board?
Agreed. I would say for me, I gotta say, this is literally, these were some of my inspiration images. You guys, that's, and this is, when it pauses, those are the actual end images of the basement, but which is now the lounge. But Taylor coined that, and it sounds real cute, right? But for me, when I thought of what my space is I personally love a mood. I love a vibe. That song, it's hard to hear, but it's called It's a Vibe. And it's a song that my husband and I love. And we would always, it just kind of put us in the right. I was like, I want to walk downstairs and it's just a vibe. It's an escape. He's been working on his doctorate, been creating this company. I was like, oh, I just want a space in this basement that's ours. We put the rest of the world aside that we can escape to. I personally am into crystals, I can be a workhorse, I can hustle, but I also need to have daily rituals that bring me back down. So that might not resonate with you, but this is me. So I like crystals, selenite, which with that, if you have an experiential bag, let's go ahead and open these because this is a part of the vibes. Okay. So one of the things in there, as you guys are opening, is a selenite crystal. Thank you. Selenite is cleansing, it's clearing. This is something that I actually have upstairs in my front door, but in my basement, it's the first thing that greets you when you walk downstairs because it is purifying, it's cleansing. That's important to me. Again, some of this might resonate with you, some of it may not, but this
It's
is
her
some good
basement,
stuff.
so whatever.
You'll see a big old hunk of wood. What is this? This is Palo Santo. Palo Santo has been used for centuries.
It smells so good.
Oh, it smells like heaven. This is the smell I think of. You can, you have a little thing of matches. You can actually, don't do it here. No playing with fire here. But you can light it and actually when it lights on fire, you blow it out and there's a little bit of like smoke, okay? Palo Santo is known to help kind of even things out, even energy out. So that is something that I practice all the time. If it's between client meetings or at the end of the day, I just might light it. Let it surround me.
She does. She'll do it on meetings all the time. We're like, what's going on over there?
Why is something on fire? I'm like, it's not.
We're cleansing. We're
We're
cleansing.
cleansing. We're cleansing. So it is cleansing. It is something that also, like if you guys are familiar with sage, sage, and Palo Santo. I might like both, but you guys got Palo Santo. The smell is intoxicating, okay? Here's the other thing is I always like to have a mood. You have a candle here. They're all different scents, but ultimately, I like to have a candle going and I have a fireplace downstairs. That's calming to me. So representing the fireplace and another way to have scent. And then I've already spoken to my love of chocolate, and it's purple. It's just a vibe. It's luxurious. You're welcome. No, I'm just joking.
So I think what's really cool is like, this is like a little capsule into Rachel's world. And so what we'd encourage our clients to do in whatever way they can, or what we encourage you guys to do, is create that little capsule that makes you happy. And then you'll see how in line this capsule is with the space that Rachel created. That's the goal when you're creating a space that's supposed to be a representation of yourself. Take what makes you happy and see if it's in alignment with the spaces that you're living in. That's really the first step, just discovering if we're in alignment between who we are and who our spaces is. And if not, that's what we're here to do. And we're going to walk you through how we got you. We will take a client from not being in alignment with their space to being in a space that feels like the boldest version of themselves.
Love.
So we're still living in discover at this point. So this is, again, the first phase of our process. And we have to get a little bit analytical. The vibe is so important. We also need to know, like, what are we doing in this space? We could take this vibe, we could make a bathroom, we could make a dining room, we could make a kitchen. But what is the programming notes that we need to put together to create goals for the space? So technically, programming is the process of gathering and analyzing information about a problem before you jump right into solving. I think a lot of people can relate to the fact of whatever profession you're in, someone comes up to you, imagine you're a doctor, and they're like, my arm hurts, fix it. And you're like, well, we got to like figure out like
How to run some diagnostic tests here.
We don't know, like you might have just have a bruise, it might be broken. We got to ask some questions and figure out what the list of goals that we're trying to accomplish here is. So really what this is doing is it's laying the groundwork for the solution later on in the process. What's so important about programming notes is that as designers, so many people can make a really beautiful space, but how do we know if it's the right space for you unless we have these set goals that we're trying to accomplish? Yes. We don't want to get to the end and be like, the space is beautiful, I have nowhere for my kid to sit down. We need to make sure we have something that feels like it's checking off every item in the list. That means we have a successful space.
I love that. Just by a show of hands, who here is like a designer or an architect? Is there? Okay, great. Yeah.
A couple.
Okay, a couple. How, my favorite is when people go, and what would you do in this space? And it's like a pop quiz. I'm like, I don't know. Who are you? I'm not entirely sure. Because it shouldn't be a pop quiz. It should be understanding, well, what goals are you trying? Like, how do you want to use the space? So we're going to use, again, the project example of my basement. It was empty, you guys, completely empty, not anything in there except a washer and dryer. These big horizontal bands, and one of them kind of goes on an angle. Those were my HVAC ducts. I have a 1942 bungalow. She's little and she's mighty. But the HVAC and some of the mechanicals, those are a huge thing to consider, because they are going to adjust ceiling height. So it's the function of, can people fit underneath them? Because my husband's 6'3" and his friends go up to 6'7". So just being cognizant of that. It also, from a design rationale standpoint, ceiling height changes signify like new spaces. They can create a cozy thing, a vibe. It could help ground something. Point being is you always want to kind of take into consideration what your space is. So you can see on that floor plan, these are just kind of an assessment of space. Okay. So we have an existing washer and dryer. So the mechanicals were located in that corner. Good to know. We're keeping the HVAC. It was not really an option to move it unless it was a huge expense and not necessarily needed. And there is an exposed ceiling. I love an exposed ceiling that's painted, and we decided to keep it to give extra height. I wanted to always keep note of where the windows were. Windows are going to obviously let natural light in and really not something I want to move, right? So let's try and keep those there. Let's try and figure out a design that makes them look intentional. And then we have a water meter. Ugh, the water meter. Why do we need that again? But we need to have access to it, and it's not something I'd like to move either. And then we wanted to give purpose to some of the existing beam locations, those I-beams, those support beams. Again, you can move them. Expensive, not really worth it. And then lastly, I do need a mean storage space. And that was, I guess I said there's nothing down there, but I did have a storage room. Okay, I moved some of those walls. In general, once I assessed the space, then I sat down with my husband. I said, well, what do we want out of this space? What are we hoping for? We want a lounge. We have a 1942 bungalow. She's small. We have a lot of friends and family. And so I was like, I want a space that we can have, incorporate these awesome designer sofas that that I bought 3 years ago and had no home for, but they were awesome. Yeah. And I was like, I need to find a way to incorporate those. I want to see 8 to 10 people. That's important. I want a fireplace. I am a proud aunt, and the kids always come over and have their toys, and I want to conceal it because I don't want toys all over the place, but I also want them to feel like they have a spot for their stuff. And then everything needs to be durable. We have a wet bar. I need a fridge, a sink. I didn't need a dishwasher, right? Concealed trash and recycling, liquor storage. And I wanted it to be an open feeling and close to the lounge, right? I needed a gym. The Peloton needed to get out of the guest room, and I want to put the weights down there and enclosed area. So when we can, instead of it just floating in the room, I wanted to visually close it off, but also music. That's a big one. And then a bathroom. We talked about a full bath, not necessary since we already had 2 full baths, and it's my husband and I, and we have no plans for kiddos. So we each have our own bathroom, but a half bath would be awesome. And I want it to be a statement. I mean, ladies, don't we love a cute like powder room? I want it to take my breath away. And then laundry. Yes, I want to have an actual laundry space where I have an area to fold clothes and storage and all of it. So it's a big ask in 700 square feet.
These are the lists we'll get from clients. And I think what's important when we're having these conversations is it's like, tell us every single thing that you want. We're not going to promise we're going to put every single thing that we want in the space, but we're going to come up with multiple schematics or multiple options and show you the pros and cons of each. Maybe this one you do have your half bath, but you don't get or you get a full bath, but you don't get a gym. Maybe the next one you have all of it, but it can only seat 4 people in the living room. And from there, as a client, you feel more empowered that you're making the decision that fits best for you instead of being told, here's your solution.
Yeah.
It's instead, here's the pros of this option. Here's the pros of this option. Which one feels better to you? And then like pretty much 90% of the time, they're like, I want a little bit of both. And I'm like, you wouldn't say you want it all, don't we? All want that. So we always come up with that final option that we maximize. These are goals that we're establishing where we can check off the maximum amount of this wish list to feel like we are working towards the right solution together. Next, co-create.
Yes. So we're still in phase 1. Remember, it's a big phase. This is what really, as design strategists, we really pride ourselves on, and what makes us different is really taking the time to sit in that discover process with our clients. So think about that. We have a vibe, we have a song, we have chocolate, we have Palo Santo, we have bold graphics, we have all of the vibe we're trying to create, but then we have a list of function, right? And so that's really what's important, is that we're merging these 2 things, whatever they are for you. Then we go into, I would say that's when we get to work for you, because then now that we're empowered to create a design solution, we're no longer guessing. Let's go ahead and go into floor plans in 3D, okay? Once we're doing that, we call that co-creation. So co-creation is uber important because we bring to our clients usually 2 options. All right. Here is how it can manifest this way and this way. For me, I looked at actually doing more like greens and a rust color, and I landed on navy and purple because that's who I am. As my niece says, I am a purple dinosaur. And that's okay. That's what she called me. When they're little and she's saying everybody's a dinosaur, I was always the purple one. So anyways, I had to embrace my love for purple. My husband's favorite color is blue. What a great marriage. It's all about compromise, I hear. So we start to figure out, how does this manifest? So you can start to see there's a bar display with a wet bar. There's actual liquor display. I played around with the idea of a walk-up bar, but at the end of the day, I wanted to see 8 to 10 people. And I didn't want a walk-up bar because I'm not there to be a mixologist. I'm there to entertain. And I wanted to be able to sit there and work, or I wanted to be able to play a game or paint, and a table offered more flexibility. So just starting to figure out, how do we create these spaces? But you can see how they all relate to that visual guideline that we previously had. At the bottom of the stairs, I have really steep stairs because they're original to the house. And I have a 95-pound pit bull fella who's a little clumsy and comes flying down the stairs and would always slide. And so I wanted to find a way to create a unique landing pad, if you will. So this looks like the carpet spills, which is quirky and whimsical and unexpected, right? And so it was functional, but also looked really cool. One of my favorite artists and vendors is Zoe Bios, that art piece there. I've always wanted to invest in a Zoe Bios art piece. So it was at the landing. So all of these things start to come together and how they could actually line up. That dresser is a representation of my husband's grandparents' dresser. We inherited a whole set. And that's been a main theme throughout my house, is finding out, I have my family, I don't have any furniture that's been handed down. And on his side, they've handed down some really beautiful pieces, and I take that as an honor. And I want to make sure that they see that that we're taking care of them. I just really felt honored to have that set from the 1950s. And my mother-in-law remembers when they bought it. And I'm like, that's really cool. And I just want to honor that. So point being is, all of this starts to come together, and we're exploring different options in 3D. There's my powder room moment. Yes, please. That vanity was screaming my name, the wallpaper. Finding pieces that really, I was like, wow, I really like how all this is coming together. And while we're doing this, we're going into floor plan mode and 3D simultaneously. And I'm thinking, is this the vibe I want? Oh, yes. But is it functioning? Yes, it is. And so we just keep going back and forth as we go through co-create. And so at the end of co-create, I'm going backwards here, but at the end of co-create, you can see that this is ultimately a prototype of what we're aiming to create together. So this was like, oh, okay, I know that I want wainscoting. I know I want, slat wall. I know that I have a great spot for those 2 sofas, but I'm going to need a coffee table. So this is an opportunity, as we're in phase 2 and as the designer, that we're bringing solutions forward, and that this is like a litmus test. Does it work? Does this work? Are we sitting enough people? But does it still feel like it needs to?
I find clients feel really empowered during this phase because everyone wants to feel like they're heard and seen. And this is the opportunity that as designers, we get to say, here's all the information you told me. Here's how this comes back to you in your space, which is just a feel good moment usually. But then also there's the freedom to explore and try out different things that you might not want to do in real life. So we said this is a digital prototype. You could say, what if that table was wood and square? There's absolutely no financial contribution of having to get a digital square wood table and see if it fits in this space digitally. But if you wanted to do that in space, you have to buy the table, get it in, bring it downstairs. It's a whole nightmare. So we can really play around in space here, getting our client to feel really confident about the solution we're going to build together when we get into phase 2 and phase 3. So
yes,
really empowering moment. Very low cost of trying some really bold solutions that maybe you wouldn't have the confidence to do a carpet that spills onto the floor. Someone describes that to you and you're like, what are you talking about? But when you can see it in space, you're like, that actually is like pretty sick. It like kind of works. You have the confidence to try to do that in real life.
Agreed. It really is a confidence builder. And again, this went through multiple iterations. We're showing you the final one, but there's different layouts, there's different colors. And it is the ability to test big ideas where in a safe place with limited consequences. Like even in you know, this option here, like a paint color that like transitions down the wall like that, it was like, that could be really weird or really awesome, you know? And so just like taking the time before you buy the paint and try it and waste a weekend to realize this doesn't work, we can do it here and be like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And then when the painter came, I knew exactly the X and Y coordinate. It starts here, ends here, draw a tape line and it go. So really taking the time to dream big, to explore options is what phase one is all about. So in summer, yes, please. Yes, we're live. Mhm. So we use Chief Architect. So Chief Architect, so typically in school, you're going to be taught AutoCAD, SketchUp, Revit. All of these programs are wonderful. As a business owner, I can tell you I love Chief Architect because it we are charging hourly for our services and we can move faster and be more efficient with our time for our clients, if that makes sense. You know, like to create a 3D like this in especially like AutoCAD or SketchUp could typically take twice as long as Chief Architect because it draws in 2D and 3D at the same time. And
Yeah. So every designer that works at Concetti, it's funny, none of us knew Chief Architect when we started, but I myself worked a lot in SketchUp before I got here. Another designer worked really heavily in Revit, and every single person that starts whatever program that they excelled in school, they're like, it's kind of like this program and this program had a baby to make Chief Architect. So we're like, yeah, it seems like it's kind of working for everyone. And what I think is really cool, I'm like a big construction nut. So I like love that it's a CAD-based program. So in SketchUp, when I worked previously, you would have to like draw everything and it was like a little bit more sketchy, hence SketchUp, but it was a little bit more sketchy and trades would look at the drawings and be like, give me an architect. With Chief Architect, we're empowered to be able to create floor plans and elevations that are exact replicas of what we're creating in 3D. So this dresser is going to look like this dresser in both the elevation and in the rendering and in the floor plan because it automatically is generating that piece into AMP 3D.
It's a good question.
It's really user-friendly too. So like she said, we're working in the program with clients. We typically come with 2 different concepts. We show them both. We're exploring the space virtually with them. And then, like I said, 90% of the time, people are like, well, show me a little bit of this and a little bit of that one. To do a little save as and start to like perform.
And that's what, we tell our client, like, you can't hurt my feelings unless you start calling me names. Like, we're here to be of service to you. So if this doesn't feel good, how did like, and usually, you know, they like it. No, but
I was gonna say, I never have another.
I mean, they usually just love it. No, but it is an exploration. So we say, here are 2 options. Let's review the pros and cons. And they could say, oh my gosh, I never thought I'd like that. I absolutely love it. Could we do that part of this version, but that part of this version will create a hybrid? And we usually will be like, yes, please, drum roll. And then while they're there, we're starting to manipulate it. And we'll, say, is this feeling good to you? And they're like, oh my gosh, yes. It's not like you have to pick A or B. We're really looking to be in partnership with our clients. Co-creation. All right, so now we have this prototype.
We made it out of phase 1.
Yeah, let's talk about phase 2. This is, I think, phase 2 is what you more or less think of traditional interior design as.
Yeah, absolutely. So once we have the prototype that we've created together, we think of it kind of like a puzzle. So you have this beautiful image, let's break it apart. And not only do we need to assemble the puzzle, and honestly, that's the contractor's job, he's doing the physical assembly, we need to go out and find all the pieces for it. But what's amazing is once we have this prototype, I guess I should back up and talk a little bit about what personalized and translate is.
Yeah. So Taylor.
I'm just jumping ahead. I want to talk about personalized.
So phase 2 is the second phase is the plan. And remember, every phase has 2 steps. So our 2 steps are personalize and translate.
Absolutely. So personalize is the part that I just got like really excited about. I was ready to like jump in and start talking about how we're doing it. That's actually going out and sourcing all of the pieces that put together that beautiful image, that finished puzzle. Translate, we actually just were talking about a little bit. So if you see this plan here, that is the exact same file that we just showed you in 3D. You pop a little camera in here and it shows you in 3D. But what's cool with this plan, we can put on different layers, like for people that work in different design programs. We can have a furniture plan, we can have a paint plan, we can do elevations, we can do a switching plan, an electrical plan, so that we're creating the documentation needed to translate, hence the name, the vision that we've co-created together to the people that are going to be executing it.
So yeah, it's literally like, here's this beautiful prototype. The client feels empowered, but now we have to go tell different trades what to do. So from this, we were able to create a plumbing plan, a millwork plan, which is all like the woodworking details, a tile layout, electrical plan. All of that is detailed out in phase 2, but personalize all these selections. I can say those are the selections in my basement and they make me really happy. Personalize is where you're finding all of the little pieces, but in phase 1, it's like, I know I needed 2 accent chairs, those black and white babies right there. Whew, I needed them. But I looked at like 5 or 6 different accent chairs and I wanted them. I'm funky, if you haven't noticed. So it was like, I wanted something that was a statement, but that was still big enough that, you know, my husband and his friends could fit in comfortably. And so same thing with like light fixtures. I love that light fixture with the 2 globes at the bottom. And so I've been eyeing that for a long time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can put it in the powder room. It's going to go over that arched mirror. It was just like, this is the fun part where I'm like, this all feels really good. And so we do the same thing with our clients. We're like, now it's not just a decorative light fixture. It's like, do you like this one or this one? And we start to go over the pros and cons of everything. And so the nice thing is though, is if you just right now, without doing phase 1, we're like, what selections do you like? It's overwhelming. And I'd like to equate it to the idea of like making a recipe and you're just looking at ingredients individually. It's like, well, do you like cinnamon? Sure. Okay. Do you like vanilla? Yeah.
What about cumin?
Yeah.
You
Together?
like
Yeah, I love cumin.
like, but not together.
I love cumin. And then you're like, but it doesn't really complement my vanilla. And so if you look at ingredients individually without being like, I am making chili, now you're going to start to talk about ingredients differently, right? So we identify in phase 1, what's the prototype? What are we making together? And then when you go into a showroom, although you might love that big old sectional, there's no space for it. You know what I'm saying? Or I really wanted this really cool bench, but there is no space for it. I needed 2 chairs because there's an I-beam there. So my point being is in going chronologically, you can get excited. You have more direction about what ingredients to look for because you know what the recipe is. Is that resonating? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think as a designer working with clients, what's really helpful for me is when we go to MDC, there's a bunch of different beautiful showrooms. And so you can really like lose your mind in here. Like you could have a big old shopping list, but when we're streamlined in the decisions that we're looking to make that day, it is more efficient in time. Like I said, like Rachel had mentioned, we bill hourly. So our clients are really confident to know we're going to MDC and we're looking for a sofa that is between 60 to 80 inches wide, however deep, and it needs to be probably like a purple color. I'm like obsessed with purple today.
I know.
Like 30 times.
Talking about language.
I'm just trying to impress Rachel. But what's cool is we can reach out to our reps before we get to MDC, say, could you please pull sofas within these dimensions that come in purple? Also, which ones do you have on the floor? And we can walk into a showroom really prepared, efficient with time. And the reps are also happy to not be like lollygagging around looking at like green sofas when really we're looking to buy a purple one. So it's just an efficiency thing that I think is helpful for the client when it comes to billable hours. helpful for the designers because everyone's crazy busy, and for the rest of the showrooms because they know exactly what they need to show us to be successful. So
I would say when it comes down to the personalized phase and why this is empowering people to be boldly them is you might look at that black and white chair and be like, oh my gosh, it's just too much. But we can quickly pop it into the rendering, right? And say, it's not too much. It's the right scale. It's the right amount of pattern. It's going to be okay. So even into personalize, it's giving people confidence. Like there's purple velvet chairs and you might be like, oh my gosh, 4 of those? That's just way too crazy. It's like, no, it's not. Let me show you how it's not too crazy. We can see here that it looks really nice. It's okay. So it empowers you to feel confident, or like that artwork, which is that purple and blue guy, that Zoe Bios piece that I love. I was like, oh my gosh, is it going to be too much? Is it going to be too big? No, it's actually the perfect scale. It looks awesome. So it empowers you to feel like I love that piece and I'm brave enough to put it in my home. I've done my due diligence. So
it's important to note that we do jump into the program again. So not just at that one meeting where we're going in between co-create or showing the 2 options. After we go to a showroom visit, we'll jump into the program, put all the furniture that we selected in, send it to a client and be like, hey, we think this looks awesome. These are the exact pieces that you looked at. Does it still feel good to you? And that it's really efficient and confident. So
yes. And I'm keeping an eye on time, my friends. Believe it or not, we've been having so much fun. It's been 45 minutes, but we're wrapping up, I promise.
And we're at phase 3, so you know we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
Only 3 phases.
I think we're killing it.
I think so. Okay.
So here we are. We're into phase 3. Okay, so phase 3 is the last and final step. Phase 3 is the action. I always like to say this is when I lovingly pass that torch over to the contractor. Now you move that plumbing where we've decided. Thank you. Vendors start making these pieces. And our 2 steps are advocate and celebrate. We're advocating for you in construction. Taylor, talk to me. She loves construction.
Construction's like my favorite thing, which is usually people are like, you are insane. But I think the important part of advocate, whether it be new construction or a small renovation, we're advocating for both the client and the vision that we co-created together. So if you're on site, if you've done any sort of construction, you know, things are going to come up. Always, you're going to open up a wall and suddenly there's a post there and we're going to put a sconce there, but the box doesn't fit. So what do? We're there to make the decision for you, not for you, but with you.
On your behalf.
On your behalf, to say, hey, we have to move the sconce to the right 4 inches or to the left 4 inches. When we look at this in the design, here's the pros and cons of this decision, here's the pros and cons of that decision, and here's the decision that we think is most beneficial. Do you agree?
So instead of you being at work and then they ask you and you're like, what is a box in a wall? I don't know what you're talking about. And then the panic sets over. We're the first line of defense. And then we bring it to you with options or say, you know, this is really what we think is going to keep the design intent. Do we have your blessing?
Yeah, it's all about this. The advocate process is about like construction is going to have problems arise. But instead of as a homeowner, as you're working with a team that's supposed to be working for you, we're there to bring solutions to the problems to you instead of just being like, here's all the issues that happened today and now what? So instead, it's a much more comfortable decision to feel like you have someone has your back in the process that's saying, here's the solutions for things that popped up on site today, which feels best to you.
Agreed. And we also oversee all procurement orders. Procurement is all the things you traditionally procure through a designer would be furniture, window treatment, lighting, wallpaper, paint. We're overseeing all of that. We're making sure it all is happening and going smoothly. And then celebrate for us is actually staging. So we want to be on site and actually helping you put the pieces in the exact right places, accessorize every little detail, find, hang the actual family gallery wall, not just like, you should put a gallery wall there. We can actually be there and hang it for you. And so we really want to make sure that we go from start to finish. But really the key to all of this is understanding we're there through the whole thing. And so behind the scene or behind me, you can see some actual progress photos. That was my basement. And so I did my own construction advocacy. I wish I had I wish I had Taylor there doing it for me. I'm not gonna lie. But being that it was my house, I did all my own construction advocacy, but it's really fun to see where it started and then where it ended up. And so and we'll go through the next slides and get bigger and bigger, but we do really want to show it is in phase 1 where you're really going to find the vision and where you are going to practice in 3D creating prototypes, really embrace that first step. That's where you're going to get clarity on the vision, on the function, and test it in a way that isn't expensive, right? And not feeling like, okay, I'm in an empty room, what goes in it? You really have to think through space as how you're going to use it, what feels good to you, and then test it out. And that's when your confidence rises and you feel like, yes, I can do these crazy, bold solutions. So, and you can also see how closely it mimics the actual renderings. Thank you. I also it was in phase 2 when I found that wallpaper, which is like the crazy black and white, it looks like graffiti, and how it tied into those chairs. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need this. I need this personally. All the little details were really, really important. I love strong black and white graphics, but I love really rich jewel tones, and finding a way to marry those two things was really important. Here's an example of in the last phase where we can, yes, there's the selenite, there's a Palo Santo, hey. We're just missing some chocolate. There's some candles burning. That is, for me, how I set the vibe, right? And connecting with that right away. Here's another view. Those animal heads to the side of the fireplace were something that made me giggle. There's a rabbit with a monocle. There's a bear with sunglasses. Who wouldn't want these things? But they're quirky and they're me. And I was like, find a way to incorporate them into the design solution. And even the woo-woo part of me, if you will, the crystals, the Palo Santo, I embrace the all-seeing eye, which is shows up in multiple places. But it was a way to incorporate that really strong black and white graphic, but also felt in line with what felt good to me.
It's like establishing that vibe from the very beginning. It's like, I would call it like a vibe check. Any decision you make needs to pass the vibe check. If it doesn't feel like it's in line with that initial vision that we so lovingly crafted together, then honor the fact that it might be cool, but it's not your vibe, and let it go. We'll do it in a different space. If you hold true to that vision, really, if it feels like it's truly you, it should be really easy to hold true to the vision itself. You can make every decision, making sure it's in alignment with that initial idea to get to a space that's like really all encompassing in the vibe.
Agreed.
We should have a vibe counter and see how many times we said it in the presentation. I feel like that'd be so embarrassing. I'll do it after. I think it's recorded.
Too bad that's not a drinking game. Yeah.
Everyone
Tequila.
that needs a ride home.
Should put that in our bag, Madeline.
Next time.
Incorporating books that feel good to you. There's another candle. There's another black and white box, which I hide my remotes in because I don't want to see them, right? Like just being thoughtful about curating the experience that feels good to you.
That speaks really highly to phase 3. I think that it's so funny when we talk to clients, we're like, we have this phase process. And by the way, nothing's actually going to happen in your space until phase 3. And people are like, what do you mean? I want to start construction next week. But if you wait and do the due diligence up front during phase 3, when all this has happened, when the process is actually being executed, is when you can be thinking about celebrate that moment when you're staging. And again, that vibe check I just talked about, if you bring it into your space, is it a vibe? Is the book that you're going to have on your side table going to fit the vibe check? If not, put it upstairs, put it somewhere else, put it in the trash. I don't care where it goes. But I know you're like, not the sister pie book.
Yeah.
But I think that giving yourself the patience and giving yourself the time to really take the entire process is going to make the phase 3, although you have to wait for it, it's going to make it so much sweeter. And it's going to allow you to be so thoughtful.
And it's smoother.
Yeah.
It's way smoother. If you do your due diligence up front, If you're not like waiting until the walls are up to decide what paint color, it's like, I knew for months I was gonna do this paint color. I knew for months it was gonna be on an angle. Actually years,
It's been in our brain for a
it's been a
minute.
minute. But this is a perfect example of those purple chairs. It was like they were the right size, the right scale. It was all thoughtfully done up front. The purple lands on the stripe of blue. So cool. And then the purples above it, like everything was thoughtfully conceived. And so there's less pressure to figure it out on site in that moment when you do your due diligence up front. There's another all-seeing eye.
Bridge is blue.
I got a, what? Samsung bespoke line, navy blue. My washer and dryer is navy blue. I'm just telling you, I went all in. This is a quick overview, guys, of our process. That phase one, that is really what we're looking for you guys to embrace. That's when you get clear on what experience you're looking to create. That's where you get clear on what function and you explore. You really can't skimp that process. That's really what empowers you to be the biggest, boldest version of yourself. In phase two, you're going to find all the pieces and you're going to do that litmus test. Is this right? Does it fit? Is it the right size? Is it the right vibe? Right? And then you're like, I can do those crazy chairs. I've checked it. Right? That's also where we're going to make sure we're translating to a contractor how to do all of this into architectural drawing sets. And then we go into phase three where we're overseeing it. We're answering any questions, but we're going to also stage everything, accessorize to a T, make sure all of the pieces are coming together. And ultimately we create space that becomes you. Cheers. So that's it. Thank you guys so much. I do want to open it up for any additional questions or feedback. I'd love to hear what resonated with you guys. Anything coming up? Yeah.
The wall pattern.
Yeah.
Was that paper or was it canvas?
No, that's paper. Yeah, it's a mural. Yeah. It's in that little corner. That's my favorite. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, behind you. Yep. Yes.
Absolutely. So when you first walk
That was-
down, here's like the little puddle of the landing page spot for Elton.
Elton
Here's-
John is my
yeah.
dog's name.
Of course it is. You know what I mean? And he came with that name. I was just like, that makes sense. Here's the credenza you saw that you're greeted with when you first walk down the space. When you turn right, here's the lounge. So the two, I think the Regina Andrews sofas, the two Regina Andrews sofas. And then what we didn't even speak to, which is so cool, that really awesome asymmetrical fireplace design, that is concealing the water meter. King, so smart.
It's a bench, so additional people can sit, but then it does hide the water meter.
Yes. Then to your left, you see the wet bar. The opposite direction, powder room. What used to be the storage space is now the gym. Up to the top of the plan, laundry room, full folding, etc. And then additional storage. Something that you also didn't toot your horn enough about, which I thought was really cool. All the
Tell me
windows.
more.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I won't hear that into this one. But all the existing windows in the basement, like they're not, if you've built a house, you know that they're just like throwing them up wherever. Rachel was really thoughtful about every sink is under an existing window, which like is something you really want in a kitchen, but you don't think about in a basement until you have it. And you're like, this is kind of nice. I get some natural light. And then these two windows flank either side of the sofa. So if you're spending time messing around and plan, you can be like, oh shoot, this does feel really good. And then those thoughtful little moments are just going to elevate the experience once you're in the basement. You might not notice it. You might not be like, oh, thank God this windows are on either side of the sofa.
But it looks
But if
so
they weren't,
intentional.
yeah, if they weren't, you might be like, it's a little off center. So just really thinking about.
I mean, while we're talking about how great I am,
how great you are.
the other thing that I said was an issue or a thing to be thoughtful of is that HVAC location. All the HVAC is actually in the laundry room and furnace room, but the one run actually angles back, and I angled the wall to match it. How cute. You guys, let me show you some more. So those are the two windows, believe it or not, that are centered on that sofa. And then, well, there's another just view of that wonderful.
Yes, there's your water meter, like underneath the mouse.
Yeah, underneath the mouse is the water meter. So it's hidden, you don't see it.
Am I gonna show you? I don't know. Maybe I won't see it.
Sure
Yeah, you just
can.
lift the bench up.
It's an electric fireplace. It's a dimplex. It's one of the best, most realistic gas or electric fireplaces. And then you can see, what'd you
I
say?
don't think I'm gonna show you on accident, but.
Yeah, yeah. And then the windows are, that window is over the sink, perfectly centered. That took a minute. Oh, there you go. She's centered. And then, oh, you can't really see the angle, but the HVAC is up at the very top, but where this wall angles, that's where the HVAC angled as well. So all of that stuff, it takes a minute, and that's why we don't just want to rush, is figure out how to work with all those existing pieces. Any last questions? Yes.
Really impressed with this process.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it. It's one of the things when starting Concetti was really getting curious about how are we going to service clients. And so I did a little bit of market research. And one of the things people would say, I've worked with a designer, but I was confused. I don't really understand the process. So we really aim to streamline it in such a way that's more digestible. So.
And creates consistency between the different designers that are leading projects. So whoever you're working with at Concetti, you can expect the same
Experience. Yes. Exactly. Yes, the whole. Correct.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. We have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
It's just you guys.
Oh yeah, let's see if any of these capture it. Go back a little bit. Oh, you can kind of see it. All the rafters are literally open.
And they're navy. People paint their ceiling black all the time. And I actually started my career in basements and like luxury basements. Whenever I'd be like, I want to paint the ceiling. There we go. I want to paint the ceiling light. The contractor would be like, no. But you don't even just have to go like light or dark. You can do like navy.
Color.
You could do purple again. But
Yes. That vendor is actually called Wood Hub Veneer, and it's actual acoustical felt, and that's wood. Those are wood slats. So you can have them custom made, but there are vendors that do that too. So the basement is not echoey. Any other questions? Wainscoting. So that purple wall, that's custom wainscoting. So it's literally 1x4 on the flat, and then I had a mill worker come out and build it to my specifications. Yeah.
there's a little LED light hidden in there too. So above, like, I'm really fangirling over your basement. I'm never giving her this many compliments in one day. We're never going to recover.
Feeling myself.
But the LED strip lights up the wood veneer hub. So you get this really cool, like linear lit effect, and it changes colors. So it can be purple. It's so cute.
I know. My neighbors are like, what's happening? What is she like? Oh. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's a really great question, actually. So I think the sound is two things. One is sound coming like between floors. And I have the original wood floors upstairs. And so I would say that for more than anything, I don't think that the slat wall, those wood slats are helping with too much transfer between floors, but more echoiness in the basement. Yeah. Yes.
I have two questions. One, the greens that I see, the plants.
Yeah.
I'm assuming those are artificial.
Those are artificial, but honestly, I placed them in a way under those windows where I was like, I should have real plants, but I didn't have enough time.
She
to
also
go
has like
source.
700 upstairs.
Oh yeah. So there's actually two things. So one, I did place the plants under the windows because I did intend to do real, and all my upstairs, they're all real, and I have a million. Taylor's right. But downstairs, I was like, let me just move slow for a minute. But those are faux, but they still give the feeling of warmth and greenery. So, and if you kill everything in the maintenance, you don't want to do it. But there is actually in this view here, that is a planter box, and that actually is lit with grow lights. So you can actually, it's called Mad Sprout is the name of the company, but yeah, that's actually, and it hooks up to my phone, and you can set it on timers for whatever plants you want to grow. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So all the walls were CMU blocks, and then we did framing, traditional framing, insulated everything, and then did drywall, and then the wainscoting is applied directly to the drywall.
And so sometimes people, like a traditional wainscoting has a layer of plywood and then the molding is applied to it.
Yep,
You don't always, like.
it's a cost
Yeah.
savings to not do it.
We've been skipping the plywood a lot because of the cost of lumber lately. And as long as you have a really good mill worker that's really good at finishing, and then the painter comes in and caulks everything really appropriately, I would say you can.
You can't really tell it. Yeah, it saves money too. Just apply like the vertical and horizontal pieces directly to drywall, so long as your drywall is in good condition and you caulk appropriately. Yeah,
That's the vinyl planking.
it is. Yes. Yes, it is. So it is luxury vinyl planks. And so it looks like wood, but you don't necessarily want to put wood on a cement slab, right? Moisture issues. So LVPs have come a long way. This actually has a light commercial wear layer. So it's going to stand up to my 95-pound dog sliding down the stairs. But it is also waterproof. So if there were any issues with water, although before I did this project, I redid all the plumbing underground. Old house needed to happen, but it works. Yeah. 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 And let my insurance company know.
But LVP is really
But I
good in
redid all the
basements.
plumbing and I have a drain tile. Yeah.
The plank is really good in basements because you want to have a floating floor in a basement usually. You don't want to apply it directly to the concrete because concrete breathes so much. You'll have issues with like tiles popping, or if you glue something down, the adhesive is going to move up. So a floating floor is going to give and nothing's level ever. Nothing's ever going to be level in your basement. Don't
And so
anyone
it's,
tell you different.
yeah, and so I didn't have to do a whole skim coat. It actually has flex to it.
Yeah.
What other questions do you guys have?
Craig says.
Oh,
They love the colors on the wall. If you want to
No.
compare it.
oh, yeah.
I think you can.
Pale navy. It
Mhm.
is pale navy. And it is autumn purple. I'm pretty sure it's autumn purple. Benjamin Moore, autumn purple. Hale navy though is Sherwin-Williams, or is that Benjamin Moore too? Yeah,
It's gone. I don't know. It's one of the two though.
I know it's Hale navy. Just Google it.
Yeah.
I should know. What other questions? Yes.
Is that part of the number?
That's a great question. So when establishing, it is
Yeah.
so important. So I always tell clients, I don't care what your budget is, lovingly. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to understand how big we should dream together, because I don't want to dream big and then you be left disappointed. So that's one of the first things we talk about up front, and we talk about our clients with budget in two ways. One is your professional services budget. That's the cost for our involvement. And then your project cost. What is your project cost? And I always tell clients too, it's a little premature because I don't know what we're doing yet together, but I want to know, are you looking to invest $20,000 or $200,000? Because now we can move windows. Now I can move a beam, right? So like I need to, if we're on the high end, if we're on the $20,000, okay, what else are we doing here? So point being is we like to understand where you're at. So when we're creating design solutions, that we aren't suggesting something that's we know is going to be above and beyond. When we get into phase two is the bidding process. And the reason I say that is phase one, let's just honor what it could be, because there's multiple ways you could achieve a white countertop. Believe it or not, you guys, I'm going to tell you a secret. Those countertops in the bar are laminate.
I
Oh
knew
my
I'd
gosh.
actually hear it.
Can you believe
I was like,
it?
I'll do it if no one else does it.
I know. Those are laminate because listen, I got to a point where I was like, it's a basement, Rach. Chill out for 1 second here. Because it is a basement and a 1942 bungalow. And I invested in a lot of beautiful furniture pieces and I can take those with me. And so there's a lot of times where it's like, but people don't realize that it isn't. quartz or marble, okay? So my point being is when we're in phase one and I was just showing a white looking countertop, you could get that for less than $1,000. I could have also spent, like, depending on how rare the marble is, you know, $10,000 on that slab, right? And so I was definitely on that end. I'm invested in other areas. So when we get into phase two, and now we know we want a white countertop, the conversations with clients go, okay, we want a white countertop. Here's some pros and cons. Laminate, incredibly durable, incredibly inexpensive. You could go to a marble. Marble is beautiful. That's the OG. That's what original gangster. That's what we're looking to actually have it imitate, but it does come with maintenance and it's porous and it's expensive. But then you could go to quartz and, you know, quartz is not going to have any maintenance to it, but it's going to have the price tag. So what do we value? And so we start to put together a budget, but it's always of conversation and it still kept the same design intent. So there's an education piece in phase two, and that's where we start to get quotes back to. So I had 3 different plumbers quote the work, et cetera, et cetera. Yes.
How long did this process take?
Because it's my house, a long time. Yeah. Yeah. So great question. Phase one is just us and the client. So we have a lot of control over timeline. Once we start a project, we have a recurring day and time. We meet weekly to bi-weekly with our client. I'm going to see you every Tuesday at noon. Hey. And we're going to keep moving it forward. Okay. So I would say for this process for a basement, it would take anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks to go through phase one. Phase one. Phase two, there's a lot of factors in there, but we usually plan on phase two being approximately 2 to 3 months. And it's us going, it depends how much time you want to go. Do you want to go find all the showrooms, or do you want to go to showrooms? Do you want us to go to showrooms? So it's a little bit of personality in there, but a lot of it is waiting for contractors to get back to us, especially since post-COVID to get quotes back. It used to be a week. Now it can be 4 weeks, which is just crazy. And then we want the client to meet the contractor, you know, like once they're like, ooh, I'm feeling it, then you should meet them and continue conversations. And then phase three, we're at the mercy of the contractor. And we always explain that to the client. I wish I knew, but we're going to have to know how long phase three takes based on what the contractor tells us. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming. I do want to tell you, you should walk around the showroom and visit that delicious cafe. Okay, good. Stop by that cafe.
Yeah, we are a little over time. If you
Yeah,
guys
so
wanna
you don't
say
have
enough
to stay, but if
questions-
you want to keep talking, I'm here all day.
But before